Hi gamers, this is EPG Every Platform Gamer and welcome to our latest video. This is our deep dive. Make sure you watch till the end as we go running scared into our review of the new game. Resident Evil Requiem is not just another sequel, it's not just Resident Evil 9, it's Capcom standing on nearly 30 years of horror history, looking back at every mistake, every reinvention, every success, and finally asking, what if we made a Resident Evil that truly understands itself? Today we're deep diving, not just surface level impressions, but everything. The game itself, the franchise's evolution, performance on every platform, the technology under the hood, the story, the monsters, the music, and where Resident Evil goes next. Stay until the end because we'll answer the most important question of all. Which version of Resident Evil Requiem is actually the best to play? Let's dive in. Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th mainline entry in Capcom's survival horror series, releasing on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PC and Nintendo Switch 2. At its core, Requiem is built around duality, two protagonists, two gameplay philosophies, two emotional journeys. You play as Grace Ashcroft, an FBI analyst, intelligence officer and observant but not a soldier. Leon S. Kennedy, a return of fan favourite, a hardened survivor whose body and mind are visibly worn down, and this isn't just a gimmick. Grace's gameplay is designed around fear, avoidance, scarcity and tension. Leon's gameplay leans into precision combat, crowd control and tactical dominance. What makes Requiem special is that both styles are fully realised. Rather than one being an afterthought, you're not just swapping characters, you're swapping mindsets. Resident Evil has always been a franchise in flux. The original trilogy defined survival horror. Resident Evil 4 redefined action gameplay across the industry. Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 pushed spectacle too far and nearly lost the franchise's identity. Resident Evil 7 was a hard reset. Fear first, action second. Village blended Resident Evil 4's DNA with Resident Evil 7's horror. The remakes proved Capcom finally understood modern pacing. Requiem is the culmination of that journey. It doesn't just reject any era of evil. Instead, it filters the best ideas from each and discards what didn't work. This is why Requiem feels confident in its identity. It knows exactly what kind of Resident Evil game it wants to be. Resident Evil stories have always been messy, melodramatic, and sometimes absurd. Requiem embraces that, but grounds it in an emotional truth. Grace Ashcroft isn't a power fantasy. She's anxious, reactive, and constantly overwhelmed. Her sections are about survival, not heroics. Leon, on the other hand, feels like a man who has survived too much. He's aging, injuries and exhaustion aren't cosmetic. They're baked into how he moves, fights and reacts. The antagonist, Victor Gideon, is classic Resident Evil villainy done right. Grotesque, theatrical, morally bankrupt and deeply tied to Umbrella's sin. This is one of the most lore-dense Resident Evil stories in years, directly engaging with Raccoon City, corporate corruption, long-buried secrets, rather than isolating itself like Resident Evil 7. If this is helping you see Requiem in a new light, hit the like button. It massively helps the channel and tells YouTube this is worth recommending. Requiem improves on nearly every modern Resident Evil mechanic. Environments are more interconnected like Village. Backtracking feels purposeful rather than padded. Puzzles are integrated organically into the environment. Enemy AI is more reactive and aggressive. Ammunition scarcity is smarter, not frustrating. Melee, parries and movement are refined from Resident Evil 4 Remake. Unlike Village's later update, first person and third person were designed together here. Animations, camera transitions and combat flow all support both viewpoints. This makes Requiem the first Resident Evil where perspective choice feels equally valid, not compromised. Requiem feels like Resident Evil 7's fear but more polished. Resident Evil 4's combat but more grounded. Village's scale but more focused. The remake's pacing but with the original ambition. Instead of swinging wildly between horror and action, Requiem controls the rhythm, letting tension breathe before unleashing chaos. This is what Capcom Capcom has been chasing for years. The monsters in Requiem aren't just scary, they're designed to disrupt player habits. Grace's pursuer can track sound, navigate ceilings and walls, punish predictable movement. Leon's enemies are more numerous, aggressive and spatially aware, forcing players to manage positioning rather than brute force encounters. Enemy design in Requiem is less about jump scares and more about sustained dread. Sound design is arguably Requiem's strongest weapon. Subtle ambient tones replace constant music. Distant footsteps and breathing create paranoia. Save room themes offer emotional relief, not just nostalgia. Played with headphones, Requiem becomes intensely immersive, especially in first-person mode. This is survival horror built on anticipation, not noise. Requiem runs on Capcom's RE engine, now fully matured for current-gen hardware. Ray trace lighting, selective, not overused. DLSS support on PC and Switch too. VRR on PS5 and Xbox. Strong 60 FPS targets across platforms. The engine excels at them all. Facial animation, dynamic lighting, environmental density without sacrificing performance. This is one of the best optimized AAA horror games of the generation. Resident Evil Requiem doesn't just run well, it looks exceptional, and not in the loud, over-processed way many modern AAA games do, but in the way that feels deliberate, restrained and deeply atmospheric. This is Capcom using the RE engine at full maturity, and it shows in every shadow, surface and flicker of light. Lighting in Resident Evil Requiem isn't cosmetic, it's gameplay defining. Across all platforms, Capcom leans heavily into strong contrast between light and shadow. Carefully placed practical light sources, lamps, flashlights, emergency lights, darkness that feels intentional, not artificial. On higher end platforms, particularly PC with path tracing and PS5 Pro with ray tracing, lighting becomes transformative. According to Digital Foundry, ray trace global illumination and reflections dramatically improve realism, especially in wet streets, rain-soaked concrete, glass, metal and polished interiors. And we agree at EPG. Light bounces naturally through rooms, wraps around corners and reacts realistically to geometry instead of relying on baked tricks. This makes environments feel physically grounded, not stage lit. Even on base PS5 and Xbox Series X, without full ray tracing, the lighting model remains strong thanks to the smart screen space solutions and carefully authored light probes. The intent survives even when the text scales down. Resident Evil Requiem's textures don't scream for attention, they reward observation. Up close, you'll notice scuffed wood floors with subtle reflectivity, peeling paint revealing layers of institutional decay, metal surfaces that catch light unevenly, hitting at age and corrosion, skin materials that use subsurface scattering to appear soft, bruised and tired. Digital Foundry highlights the material work as some of the best Capcom has ever produced, especially in character models. Cloth folds naturally, leather looks worn instead of glossy, and skin reacts believably to lighting changes. On Switch 2, some concessions are made, lower resolution, textures and simplified hair systems, but remarkably the core visual identity is preserved. DLSS reconstruction helps maintain texture clarity better than expected, even outperforming the Xbox Series S image stability in motion, and you really have to see it to believe it. What truly elevates Requiem is its art direction. This is not a game obsessed with constant visual fireworks. Instead, Capcom uses muted color palette, realistic architectural spaces, long sight lines, and makes you feel exposed. Symmetry that becomes unsettling when broken. We at EPG note and emphasize how environments are designed to make you slow down. Second guess yourself and feel watched. Even when nothing is happening, corridors are wide but never comforting. Rooms feel orderly until chaos erupts. This is classic Resident Evil spatial design modernized. The mansion logic of Resident Evil 1, the grounded realism of Resident Evil 2 Remake, the cinematic framing of Resident Evil 4, all filtered through modern lighting and material tech. Good horror isn't about how many polygons you put, it's about control. Requiem's lighting and textures hide threats just out of view, make safe spaces feel temporary, and turn mundane objects into sources of dread. The Resident Evil engine here isn't flexing for trailers, it's being used to manipulate mood, tension and anticipation, and that's why Resident Evil Requiem doesn't just look good, it's a masterclass on cinematography. obviously overall PC is the best platform. It has the highest resolution and fidelity, the best ray tracing implementation, and the DLSS gives smooth performance even on mid-range GPUs. With record-breaking Steam player counts, it looks like players agree. The best console overall is the PlayStation 5. It has the most consistent frame pacing, has slightly sharper image than the Xbox, and has excellent VRR support. The best portable experience is obviously the Switch 2. DLSS performs shockingly well. It has full content parity. While some visual compromises have been made, nothing is game-breaking. If you ignore the numbers and see both the Switch 2 version alongside the Xbox Series or PS5 versions, it looks almost indistinguishable, and to most casual gamers will look close enough. DLSS is the star of the show with Nvidia tech shining through and through. The game also runs at 60 FPS on Switch 2. While not locked, it's an incredible achievement, and Capcom are too to be commended on their effort. Switch 2 isn't the best way to play, but it's by far the better than anyone expected, especially if you want to be able to play Resident Evil on the go. Requiem launched to high 80s to low 90s Metacritic scores, series best PC launch numbers, and strong critical consensus praising balance and ambition. Fans and critics alike are calling it the most complete Resident Evil since Resident Evil 4. Capcom has clearly positioned Requiem as a foundation, not a finale. Story threads are deliberately left open. DLC potential is obvious. The ending reshapes how bioweapons are handled narratively. Resident Evil 10 won't be a soft reboot, it'll be a direct continuation, and Requiem makes sure of that. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe, like and follow for more long-form gaming analysis. Whatever platform you may be watching this on, you can find EPG Every Platform Gamer on Twitter, X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and on our website where you can watch all our videos and read our written articles. Comment on the platform of choice and I read every comment and love to engage with like-minded gamers. Share this with someone who you grew up with who plays Resident Evil, because survival horror isn't just back, it's evolved. And remember, game anywhere and everywhere.